I don't usually shop late at night. But that day, I didn't really have a choice. I got off work late, the fridge was empty, and the 24-hour supermarket was my only option. You'd think a brightly lit store would feel safe, right? It doesn't. Not when it's almost empty. It was around 11:45 p.m. The place was dead quiet. No music, just that faint electric hum from the lights. I grabbed a basket and started moving down the aisles. Chips, cereal, milk, basic stuff. And then I noticed him. A guy, hoodie, jeans, average build. Nothing special, but he wasn't shopping. He had no cart, no basket. He was just standing at the end of my aisle, staring. Not at me, but through me. I looked away and kept walking. Probably just some drunk guy, I thought. But then, there he was again. Different aisle, same spot, same stare. I sped up, zigzagged through a few aisles trying to lose him. But no matter where I turned, I'd spot him, standing at the end, watching. I told myself to finish up and get out. I went to the dairy section, opened the fridge for milk. The cold air slapped me in the face, and then I heard it. It wasn't a fridge door. It was quieter, like slow, careful steps. I turned my head. He was there, closer this time, pretending to look at yogurts, but his eyes, they were fixed on me. And then without blinking, he started walking toward me. Calm, slow. My throat went dry. Basket in hand, I turned and walked away. Fast. Not running, not yet. I ducked into the cleaning supplies aisle. Empty. Silent. I stopped to listen. No footsteps. I glanced up at one of those round security mirrors on the ceiling. And there he was, end of the aisle, watching. I was done. I bolted for the self-checkouts, scanning my items with shaky hands, looking over my shoulder every 2 seconds. I didn't see him anymore. Maybe he left. But when I grabbed my receipt and turned toward the exit, he was there, standing by the automatic doors, blocking them. I forced myself to stay calm. I took out my phone, pretending to be on a call. "Yeah, I see you. I'm coming out now." I said it loud enough for him to hear. He didn't move, but I did. I walked straight toward him. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear the doors sliding open. He stepped aside, just a little, just enough for me to pass. Outside, the parking lot was empty, pitch black, except for a few flickering streetlights. I did that awkward fast walk, keys tight in my fist, but I felt it, that weight of his stare on my back. I glanced behind me. He wasn't following. He was just standing there, by the doors, watching. I got into my car, locked the doors, and drove straight home. The next morning, I filed a police report. They said they'd check the cameras, said they'd get back to me, but they never did. No follow-up call, no update, nothing. It's like it never happened. But it did, and it still haunts me. It's been months now. But every time I step into a supermarket, I scan every aisle, every mirror, every face. I haven't been back to that supermarket since. I can't, because every time I picture those long, empty aisles, I see him standing there, waiting at the end. My name's Alex. I used to work night shifts at a local supermarket. You know, those late hours when the store is closed and it's just you and a skeleton crew stocking shelves. At first, it felt peaceful. The empty aisles, no customers, no noise, just the sound of your own footsteps echoing off the tile floor. But after a while, the silence isn't comforting. It's suffocating. One night, I was assigned to restock the back corner, aisle 17. That aisle never sat right with me. It's the one with cleaning supplies, buckets, brooms. Always felt off. But I told myself it's just a normal shift. Just products and shelves. Nothing more. I was kneeling, stacking bottles of bleach, when I heard it. Not from the shelves, from behind me, like someone had just leaned against the metal rack. I turned. No one was there, just an empty aisle stretching into the dark. I laughed it off. The shelves always creak when you move them, right? But then I noticed a shopping cart, just sitting at the end of the aisle. It wasn't there 5 minutes ago. It was one of those old ones, wheels slightly turned, like it had just been pushed and left to drift. But I hadn't heard anyone. No footsteps, no wheels rolling. I called out, "Hey, who's there?" Nothing. I told myself it was probably another night shifter messing around. But then I remembered I was the only one scheduled on floor duty that night. I forced myself back to work, stacking, avoiding looking down the aisle. But the feeling wouldn't leave, like someone was watching. Close. Minutes passed, maybe more. Then I caught it in my peripheral vision. Movement, fast and low, behind the shelves across from me. It wasn't big, but it was fast. I stood up slowly, heart pounding, trying to peer through the gaps in the shelves. Nothing, just shadows. But the cart was gone. I checked my walkie. Dead, no signal. I didn't panic yet. Instead, I decided to head to the CCTV room, just to prove to myself I was being paranoid. The hallway to the security office is long, with a blind corner. As I reached that corner, I froze. I could hear breathing. Not mine. Someone was around that corner. I didn't call out this time. I just listened. The breathing was slow, deliberate, like they wanted me to know they were there. I backed away, carefully, every instinct screaming at me not to turn my back. But then, footsteps, coming toward the corner, slow, heavy. I ran, full sprint down the hallway back toward the stockroom. But the light started flickering. And then, a knock. Not on a door, on metal, on the stockroom shelves. I skidded to a stop. A figure stood in the stockroom doorway. I couldn't see their face, but they were holding a broom, slowly twisting it in their hands. I couldn't move, we just stood there. Then without a word, they turned and walked back into the stockroom. Slow, calm, like they wanted me to follow. I didn't. I bolted for the front exit, but the doors were locked. I knew the night code, but in that moment, my hands were shaking so bad, I couldn't even punch it in. The footsteps were getting closer, but they weren't rushing. They were enjoying this, dragging it out. I managed to hit the code. The door unlocked. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could feel them standing just behind me as I stepped outside. I quit the next morning, but sometimes when I'm in a store late at night, I still hear that slow, deliberate knock. My name's Ethan. I'm 22 and I work at a small supermarket in a quiet suburban town. It's one of those places where everyone knows everyone, and shifts are usually pretty boring. I usually do the closing shifts, and I like it that way. Fewer customers, quiet aisles, and I can just zone out while facing shelves. But a few months ago, they hired a new guy named Mark. Mark was older than me, maybe mid-30s. He was quiet, too quiet. He didn't really talk to anyone, and he always seemed to be watching from a distance. At first, I thought he was just shy, but over time, it felt different. Like he wasn't just watching, he was studying. One night, when we were the only two left for closing, things got weird. Around 10:45 p.m., I went to stock the back shelves near the storage door. I could hear Mark's footsteps behind me. Slow, deliberate. I turned, expecting to see him, but the aisle was empty. The footsteps stopped. I laughed it off. Maybe it was the old building settling, but then I noticed the storage room door, which should have been closed, was slightly open. It was strange because only the manager had keys to that room. Mark didn't have access. At least he wasn't supposed to. I walked closer, and that's when I heard it. A faint clicking noise, rhythmic, coming from inside. "Mark?" I called out. No answer. The clicking stopped. I pushed the door open slowly. The room was dark except for a small battery-powered lantern on the floor, casting long shadows. Mark was sitting on an overturned crate facing the wall. He wasn't moving, just sitting there, perfectly still. I asked him what he was doing. No response. That's when I noticed the wall in front of him, dozens of small photographs taped up. They were all pictures of the supermarket aisles, but not empty. In each photo, there was a person, always alone, always unaware they were being photographed. I felt my stomach twist. Some of the photos were recent. I recognized customers. I recognized myself. "Where did you get these?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Mark slowly turned his head. He smiled, but his eyes looked past me like I wasn't even there. He stood up. I took a step back. He didn't follow. He just said, "You should go back to your aisle, Ethan. You're being watched." I didn't wait. I left the storage room, grabbed my stuff, and left the store without clocking out. I never went back. A week later, the store posted a help wanted sign. Mark was never mentioned again. I still don't know if those photos were for him or for someone else.